Good morning and welcome to the Daily Oz. It's Wednesday, the 3rd of June. I'm Emma Gillespie.
I'm Elliot, Lawry.
Can you sue a chatbot for helping a murderer? A first-of-its-kind legal battle surrounding OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is unfolding in the US state of Florida. The suit claims the company and its CEO, Sam Altman, failed to warn users that ChatGPT can be dangerous.
We're here to announce that we recently filed a monumental civil lawsuit against Sam Altman and ChatGPT for endangering our kids and deceiving parents into believing that this application is safe for use.
This case and other related ongoing actions raise the same question. If AI helps someone plan a killing, who is actually responsible? We are going to unpack everything you need to know in today's deep dive, but first, here is a quick word from TDA's editor-in-chief, Billy.
Hello, it's Billy. I know I am often talking to you on the podcast, but you might not know what I do outside of the podcast. I'm the editor-in-chief of TDA, and a big focus for me at the moment is what we do with AI. As a newsroom, how do we grapple with the fact that the industry is completely changing, and the fact that what could be the right direction for us today might not be tomorrow? And that's where you come in. We need your help to grow, to make sure that no matter what, our relationship with our audience is as strong and as direct as it can be. Hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. And thank you for being part of the Dailyaus community.
Emma, this is such an interesting story that we're going to be talking about today, and we haven't really covered it yet at TDA. So when you said we were going to be talking about it for the podcast day, I got quite a reaction in the office. I know everyone was really interested to hear more about it.
Yeah.
I think a good place to start before we get into it is with who's involved with this case and what do we need to know about them?
Yeah, so there are a few key players, the first being OpenAI. Now, this is the huge US-based AI company founded in 2015, led by CEO Sam Altman. We talked about OpenAI recently on the pod because of this lawsuit between the founders, Sam Altman and a guy called Elon Musk. So there's been plenty of media attention around OpenAI in recent years, but its most well-known product is ChatGPT.
And now we hear about them all the time.
All the time. That is, of course, the AI chatbot launched to the public in 2022. Hundreds of millions of users around the world engage with it constantly. It is everywhere. Listeners are probably engaging with it frequently, and if they are not, certainly lots of people in their world are.
And now the company's being sued. What's actually in the lawsuit? Like, why are they going to court?
So the allegations at the center of this lawsuit are some allegations relating to how suspected shooters engaged with ChatGPT in the lead up to their attacks.
Right.
Primarily, it focuses on two attacks, the first being a shooting at Florida State University on the 17th of April, 2025. Now, in that shooting last year, the alleged gunman, a 20-year-old student named Phoenix Iker, allegedly killed 2 students and injured 6 others. He has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, but Florida's top law enforcement official, the state's Attorney General James Utmeyer, claims that Eichner used ChatGPT in the lead-up to attack and says that the chatbot gave him specific operational advice.
Advice?
Yes, so allegedly, ChatGPT advised this shooter on when and where to carry out the attack, specifically gave him tips on when and where to carry it out to target more people. Eichner asked ChatGPT, what time is the busiest in the FSU Student Union? The chatbot replied, weekdays 11:30 to 1:30, and Eichner was allegedly then seen on campus days later with a gun at 11:59 a.m. Authorities also claim that ChatGPT advised Eichner on what type of gun to use. It allegedly told him that an attack will attract more media attention if children are involved. And Eichner also reportedly messaged the chatbot thousands of times discussing terms like suicide, loneliness, guns, and mass shootings.
Okay, there's so much to unpack there, and I think we will learn a little bit more later down in our chat. But there's another shooting that you mentioned up top, right?
Yes. Now, this one happened just recently in April 2026, almost a year to the day after the FSU shooting. This one involves 2 University of South Florida students who went missing in a separate incident. They were postgrad students, and after weeks of searching for their bodies, they were found dead in separate locations. One of the victims' roommate and a former student of the same university, a 26-year-old man, was charged with 2 counts of murder. Prosecutors allege he used ChatGPT to ask, quote, what happens if a human was put in a black garbage bag and thrown in a dumpster days before students went missing? 11 days later, one of the students' bodies was found in a black garbage bag. That suspected shooter also asked ChatGPT, are cars checked at the Hillsborough River State Park? That is the location near where the second body was found in a waterway on the 26th of April. Both victims in that attack are understood to have been shot.
I'm really surprised to learn the detail that it was willing to give out. And in my head, I'm thinking there must be a lot of checks and balances over at such a massive international tech company. But it sounds like there's not, because we've had these 2 cases almost exactly 1 year apart.
Yep.
Has Sam Altman or OpenAI responded to these?
So they have addressed these Florida incidents. In a statement, an OpenAI spokesperson said ChatGPT is not responsible for these terrible crimes.
Oh, wow.
They said the platform provided factual responses to questions with information that could be found broadly across public sources, including the internet, and that ChatGPT did not encourage or promote illegal or harmful activity. So a full denial of this insinuation that ChatGPT aided in these offences.
They're saying they could have got the information basically anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And OpenAI has also said that in both of these cases, its models encouraged the alleged shooters to seek mental health support. So that's part of its defence. And it should also be noted that in a third other incident, which is actually not related to the Florida suit, but I think is important, Sam Altman has actually apologised over a school shooting in Canada. You might remember this one from February. 5 students and a teacher were killed, 25 more were injured when an 18-year-old shooter opened fire on a school in British Columbia. She later died by suicide after the shooting, and her mother and brother were found dead at a nearby home.
Yeah, I remember that one. I think I covered it. It was so sad.
Yeah, a really small town, a tiny village in Canada, devastating story. But the ChatGPT of all of this is that the shooter's account was actually flagged by OpenAI staff in mid-2025, so more than 6 months before the shooting, over disturbing content, including descriptions of gun violence. So staff at OpenAI actually wanted to report this to authorities. The account ended up being banned, but they did not alert local police about these concerns.
Okay, so if you have staff internally flagging this account and saying that it needs to go to the authorities, what's happening in between that meant that didn't end up going ahead?
Well, OpenAI has said basically that this account didn't meet its threshold for what it defines as a credible or imminent plan for serious physical harm to others. So they certainly assessed the nature of these prompts and conversations, but deemed that it just didn't meet that threshold. But Altman since has apologised publicly. He said, quote, I am deeply sorry that we did not alert law enforcement to the account that was banned in June. Families of victims, though, have not accepted that apology. They have accused him of playing a game with our community where we were the only people who could ever lose. So there is legal action now also underway relating to that case with 7 families impacted by the Canadian school shooting who have brought legal action against OpenAI, 7 separate ongoing suits.
Yeah, and that case is so interesting because you mentioned that we've had this admission that there was a threshold met with the account, with all the sort of prompts that were being given that were relating to this mass murder, but nothing happened. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what is the threshold if not that?
Yeah, well, I guess the short answer is it depends platform to platform. There are no real regulations here, and many advocates for AI protections in this space have really noted their concerns around the fact that it's kind of the Wild West out there still. This technology has evolved so rapidly in recent years that those catchments and regulations aren't shored up yet, and of course vary between platforms and jurisdictions. But I did think that this piece of research out of the UK was quite interesting this year, the Center for Countering Digital Hate tested 10 leading AI chatbots, and it found that 80% regularly assisted users seeking help with violent attacks. So obviously each chatbot has its own filters, but 80% of them are not flagging concerns around what should be concerning content. Snapchat's My AI and Anthropic's Claude were the only two that actually refused to assist would-be attackers, and that was in 54% and 68% of responses respectively, so still a big gap. And Claude was the only one of the 10 that explicitly and consistently actively discouraged users seeking advice on carrying out violent attacks. So the centre basically says that the example of Claude proves that
it's possible.
Yeah, that there are tools to embed safety regulations, but the centre said the will to implement them is absent. Interestingly, the least safe of the 10 were Perplexity and Meta AI. They would assist would-be attackers in 100% and 97% of responses, respectively. And the founder of the CCDH, Imran Ahmed, said the chatbots were far too willing to give us detailed information on how you can kill people.
Yeah, so it sounds like even if the chatbot you're talking to is not giving you the information you want, you can just go to another one anyways.
Exactly.
Okay, and before the break, we were talking about those couple of different cases and incidents where we've seen these sort of high-profile crimes play out with the assistance of chatbots. We now have this lawsuit. Did we know that it was coming?
Well, kind of. The writing has been on the wall in Florida, where authorities have really been cracking down on these safety concerns around AI. And in April, that culminated in the Attorney General in Florida announcing a criminal investigation into OpenAI. That's really unusual because normally criminal investigations center around people, not companies and platforms. But the Attorney General said if ChatGPT were a person, it would be facing charges for murder. So then this week, there was an escalation that was announced in Florida, which has filed a civil lawsuit against OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman, personally. Now, there's this 83-page document filed in Florida's judicial circuit that claims OpenAI knowingly built what it calls, quote, a dangerous online product where harmful information, including tips of self-harm and mass murder, are readily available, including to young children. So really at the core of this suit is these claims that OpenAI engaged in negligence, that it violated Florida's laws on unfair and deceptive practices, and the state is therefore seeking potentially billions of dollars in damages.
That point that you just mentioned about Sam Altman being part of the case, that's pretty unique because normally we see these lawsuits taken out against these companies, but to have, the head of the company named really stands out to me. Do we know why?
Yeah, it's all about accountability and leadership, I guess. So the suit alleges that OpenAI and Altman prioritized getting ChatGPT to the market as quickly as possible, that it prioritized with Altman making money over user safety, and that all of that occurred under the leadership of Sam Altman as CEO. So the claims are that, as the leader, he suppressed internal safety warnings, that he deceived users about the true dangers of ChatGPT.
Right.
So the allegation there being that Altman knew that this product had gaps, loopholes, dangerous areas or corners that could be exploited by some users, but that he sought to suppress that information.
I'm assuming they have some sort of evidence for that, but I guess we have to wait for the trial to find that out.
And of course, this is all, alleged at this point in time, but Florida is seeking to hold Altman personally liable for what it called reckless and willful conduct relating to those allegations. Utmaier, the Attorney General, said publicly, Sam Altman and ChatGPT have chosen the AI race over the safety and security of our kids. In defense, though, OpenAI told the BBC that it has put in place industry-leading protections and policies. So it's really defended its protocols. It said it's building safety for minors directly into its products. It's got an age detection tool and other monitoring features. And the company has also said that it's cooperated with law enforcement in all of these cases.
Interesting for them to say that they've got these industry-leading protections when we just went through that data earlier about the fact that 80% of the time chatbots are willing to help out with these sorts of terrible crimes.
Yeah, and of course ChatGPT wasn't the worst performer in that survey, but it was far from the best and had some really major flags when it came to refusing to respond to very concerning prompts and refusing to flag those issues.
Okay, so we know that this case is happening. What happens next?
So this civil suit has really only just been filed this week, so we'll be waiting to hear more formally from OpenAI how it plans to respond. Meanwhile, that criminal investigation is also ongoing in the state of Florida. And for these offenders, we've got impending trials. Eichner's trial on the FSU shooting is expected in October. The Canada lawsuits are now also working their way through the US courts.
Yep.
So a lot going on for OpenAI and a lot of legal implications that could be in its future. In terms of what this could result in, we could see the action in Florida actually open the door for other states in the US to follow, or even global jurisdictions. Florida has even proposed an artificial intelligence bill of rights for its residents. So there are some political implications too to keep an eye on. But this lawsuit specifically is seeking damages to compensate those harmed by OpenAI's conduct. The state wants OpenAI to hand over some of its profits. It wants to hand down some significant government fines. And it's also seeking court orders that would require ChatGPT to change how it operates. And those changes would impact users all around the world and including here in Australia.
Yeah, my ears always perk up when I see these sorts of cases because they are the first of their kind in many ways. And assumedly, they'll set a precedent for all the cases that come after them. And especially as we're going into later this year, a lot of those big AI companies are planning to go public. They're going to be under more scrutiny and they're going to have to answer to shareholders about exactly these kind of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks so much for taking us through that today. I believe we now have a tidbit.
We sure do. It's tidbit time. I want to talk to you about a very heartwarming story of a dog rescue on the New South Wales South Coast.
Please.
This week, this beautiful dog was swept off the rocks in southwest New South Wales. It swam 800 metres to a nearby island, right? 800 metres? Authorities reckon that this dog would have had to swim consistently for 20 to 30 minutes in quite rough seas, choppy conditions.
Do we know how big of a dog it was?
I've read that it was a large brown and white dog.
I hope so. I was imagining like a chihuahua swimming 800 metres.
Sweetie, a chihuahua swimming 800 metres. No, this was a sizable dog apparently, but basically onlookers in Bateman's Bay saw it get swept off the rocks. It triggered this massive marine rescue deployment. Volunteers found the dog on Snapper Island, which is nearby. Volunteers took almost an hour to coax the dog onto their boat to safely retrieve it because obviously it was very concerned and scared and upset. But the animal was fastened onto the back of a jet ski, transferred to the main rescue vessel, handed over to council rangers, and a happy ending, reunited with its owners on Tuesday morning.
It's like real life Castaway.
Truly. The jet ski was Wilson.
Where is the documentary? I will be watching it. Give me a 4-part series.
Waiting for an Australian story, a follow-up.
And that was a fantastic way to finish today's pod.
Thanks, Elliot.
And thank you for listening to The Daily Oz. We'll be back in your headphones later this afternoon with the evening headlines. Until then, have a good rest of the day.